Thank you all for coming to this presentation out of the many that are available. I imagine some of you just got pushed out of the conferences you wanted to attend, but that's fine. Welcome. I'm Ryan Risha. I'm the Senior IT Technician of the Sudbury Catholic School Board. I've been in IT for around 7 years professionally, taking me from here home in Ontario all the way out to Northwest Territories in Nunavut. So I've done a lot in a short span of time. Today I'm going to talk at you for a while about Bookstack, Sudbury Catholic itself, and your knowledge-based solution. Hopefully we can get you going. But before we can get into that, we need to talk about what a knowledge base is. So to me, a knowledge base is a centralized and curated repository of information, and contained within it is your rigid policy, procedure, troubleshooting, and configuration information. Your stuff that changes irregularly or is pretty much immutable is what goes in here. So due to the nature of how information is often stored within organizations, it's easy to assume that you already have a knowledge base, or that this is a product that's here to solve an issue that doesn't exist. So I find with knowledge bases, it's easy to discuss what it's not before we move forward. So it's not another file share. It's not another SharePoint or Google Drive or Dropbox or Teams Chat or OwnCloud. It's not a vomiting ground for your files. It's not a place where you leave things to be lost and forgotten, worked on and not actioned, which returns us to the defining characteristics, and it's also why you should create a knowledge base. So again, bringing us back to the first point, it's centralized. Your critical information can be reliably located in the same spot over and over again. Your hours won't be spent combing through SharePoints, through personal file shares, through your deprecated Teams chats, through the old Slack channels. Curation ensures that the information present within your knowledge base is relevant and accurate to your organization's current policies, procedures, and guidelines. Your bloated, irrelevant, outdated information needs to be actively excised so you keep only what's relevant. With these two core elements in place, the information then needs to be accessible for yourself, your department, your whole organization. Knowledge bases can be left open for viewing by all. They can be locked down with SSO integration or their own independent logon systems, so that information can be safeguarded from users that information needs to be restricted from while giving them relevant access. Outside of those core benefits, knowledge bases create a singular location in which to manage and maintain your organizational policies, procedures, and guidelines. Knowledge bases present a massive benefit for staff training and orientation, as policies can guide staff on when certain tools are to be used. Guidelines and policies illustrate when and how those tools are to be utilized, and troubleshooting information can assist staff whenever they hit a wall. This is of immense value to end user facing departments, as guides detailing software use, acquisition, and basic troubleshooting can be essentially created, edited, and accessed or distributed to staff. These can be leveraged to grease the wheels of your large-scale projects and greatly reduce the workload of your endless break-fix tasks. To highlight this benefit, I have some anecdotal but very tangible results from our own school board. So at Sudbury Catholic, we have regular device refreshes, as I'm sure most of you in this room do, if not all. If you don't, you should start doing them. It makes things easier. I'm aware that what I'm going to present may be rookie numbers to a lot of you because we're a smaller board, but that should make the scope more important because of the time that we save. So in our latest round of refreshes, we had 100 MacBooks to shift, 3 technicians, one of them is me, and we had 2 weeks to get all this done. So in preparation, I spent about 15 hours developing documentation to guide all of our end staff in backing up their MacBooks. So that's getting their OneDrive files set up, that's getting their photos exported, that's making sure their browsers are synced. Anything and everything for their general task on their Mac, so it's ready to go. This documentation was then pushed up to our Bookstack knowledge base, which is publicly available the entire time these documents are being made, and then in every single staff communication piece we pushed, we provided a direct link to this knowledge base with a checklist of these are the things you need to do, and each of those checklist items had hyperlinks to the relevant articles for the staff to utilize as needed. The result of this is the documentation saved us a minimum of 45 hours in this single rollout. So over the duration of all the staff devices we need to shift, it's going to save us around 400 working hours just for our immediate upcoming staff refreshes. That doesn't count all the break-fix time saves that we're going to incur from this documentation existing. because beyond the scope of this device refresh, the articles remain accessible for everybody to use whenever they're needed to be used. My second piece of anecdotal information comes from our endless break-fix maintenance tasks. Our third highest ticket category is printing, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. By publishing some documentation pertaining to addition, deletion, maintenance of printers, print accessories, and print software, ticket submissions in that category have fallen by over half. Significantly less, still unfortunately our third highest because there's a lot of printers. And from the ticket submissions that are still made, we can resolve the bulk of them by then providing the end user with documentation directly. It saves a large amount of time because we don't have to schedule a technician visit, we don't have to coordinate around work schedules. Staff can get up and running significantly faster than they could have previously. So we have some testament to what makes a knowledge base desirable, and some background as to why. So we have to decide on what we're going to implement, so we need to decide on our feature set. What do we want out of this? So when you're choosing a knowledge base, the ones that I lean to is you want single sign-on, because you don't want to have to create yet another repository of different username, password, credentials. You don't want to manage all of that separately. It's a headache for everybody involved, and no one likes remembering more credentials. Your next is your user group management, because again, we need to lock down information that needs to be kept separate, and it allows it to be more automated as you enroll more people into the knowledge base. Next is data resiliency. These articles, the information within your knowledge base, is very important, or it wouldn't be there. So you don't want something bad to happen for it to go missing. A mature knowledge base solution will have versioning within the knowledge base, and then that knowledge base should run on top of a virtual machine, so it can be snapshot, and then the whole thing should be redundant and backed up. You don't want to lose these. Next is intuitive document creation. So we're now past the core elements of what you need to make sure your information doesn't go bye-bye and it can be accessed. The next is making sure that people actually write in the darn thing. If your document creation is frustrating, difficult, or cumbersome, people just aren't going to use the solution to make documents. If you make the barrier of entry to logging that information too high, it's not going to get used. Next is approachable UI. We are visual. We don't like things that are ugly. We like things that are easily navigable. And if it's not an approachable UI, same as the previous point, people aren't going to touch it. And the last is mobile friendly. So a lot of us are on the go, a lot of us move around, but moreover, it gives us flexibility for how to access that information and redundancy. If you have a bunch of troubleshooting information on how to fix a computer that won't start, that's great, but your computer won't start and you can only access the knowledge base from the computer. So having multiple avenues to access your information is very valuable. So depending on your organization, there might be other key aspects you want to consider and are must-haves before you finalize a solution, but these are my key 6. So the next is just, if you're going to go managed or unmanaged, we'll go over those in brief. For your managed solutions, you're looking at, you have a minimal maintenance impact. Typically, the only maintenance you actually really have to do on a managed solution is pay that recurring cost, and possibly some user group management. It depends on how aggressive the solution is done. They're typically going to be cloud-based solutions because they're managed, they're third party, they're going to hang out in the cloud, which can be a benefit, but again, if it's key information, this might be a detraction because it adds a layer of attack surface that wouldn't otherwise be present. Oftentimes, I found with the fully managed solutions from exploring, they're a part of a larger whole, so there's a knowledge-based component tacked onto something else. This can be beneficial if you're also looking for a workspace, but it may be a detraction when that company that's managing the solution decides to focus on a different part of the product set than what has attracted you to it. There's also very few competitive options in the managed space. There's ECNO, there's Obsidian, and there's 2 or 3 others, but they all have very similar structures in how they function and very similar pricing. For unmanaged solutions, it's high maintenance impact. You got to take care of it yourself. They have a high initial startup cost and replacement cost because you source the hardware yourself. You got to keep handling that. You do have the option of local or cloud-based because if you source the hardware, it's yours. But there, you could opt for going with a cloud-hosted virtual machine, which I've done in the past. Most of the unmanaged solutions are dedicated in function. They're generally created as a knowledge base first or exclusively as such. Examples are Wiki.js, MediaWiki, which is what powers Wikipedia, and Bookstack, which we're going to get into, I promise. And self-hosting has significant competition and customization because they all are quite radically different from one another, and the customization allows you to burgeon that out a bit more. So after all the considerations, we went with Bookstack. There's a bunch of reasons for such, so I'm going to cover them fairly in depth, and then we'll get to a demo. So first, managed, unmanaged, and hybrid approaches are all available for Bookstack. Our current implementation is self-hosted because we didn't want the internet attack surface. But there's companies that can run a managed solution where they will have a pre-made Bookstack instance for you, and then you just simply customize it. Bookstack has a ton of different SSO support. It has MS365, it has LDAP, it has G Suite, it has Facebook and Discord and Slack, and more beyond that. It has excellent data resiliency within itself. By default, you have 100 revisions on a single article. That can be expanded, so you can increase the limit, or you can just remove the limits. The document creation is simple and wonderful. The default editor is wordy. It's called What You See Is What You Get, but it is just that. It feels like you're writing in a better version of Google Docs. It has wonderful photo export and manipulation, easy to create tables so you can drop in more information. It has draw IO integration and ready file attachments of any kind you can pop into append to your document. The UI is approachable and simple, it's attractive, it's uncluttered, it prevents users from becoming completely overwhelmed with options. It has simple user group management, which again, you can leverage with your LDAP, your Entra ID, your G Suite, if your single sign-on method has user group management as part of its suite. It also has phenomenal mobile support, which I would like to show you, but unfortunately due to the implementation I have for the demo, I can't. But it does format perfectly onto a phone screen. The text size increases, photos format correctly, so you can very easily view your documents on the go. Also, when it's correctly set up with HTTPS, most Chrome browsers will recognize it as a push app, so you can just pull it directly onto your device, which then eliminates the top web bar, which gives you a little more real estate, which is always nice. So beyond that base criteria, it has enforced information organization, which is my favorite feature of the application. So in Bookstack, it's impossible to create content without at least one layer of organization. So this prevents the cluttering of a root directory by people creating articles and then just dumping them and never revisiting them. You have to, at a base level, have a consideration where you're putting things. So the way that the organization flows is information is in a page, which may belong to a chapter if you choose. That chapter must belong to a book, and that book can be placed on one or more shelves. It's a Bookstack. So it's a very intuitive method of organizing the information. Some folks may view this enforced organization and enforced hard limit of how deep it can go as a drawback, but I view it as its greatest strength. Because of how the information is organized, whenever information on a book, chapter, or page is updated, it's immediately reflected across the entire knowledge base. Because the book only actually exists as one book, you can just tie it to many shelves. It just saves you a lot of time and also eliminates human error from causing problems because you don't have to revisit the same information multiple times. As I mentioned before, it has direct draw IO integration, which is fantastic for creating logical or physical topologies of your networks or your physical buildings if you don't have any. Just to use as quick reference or to aid in network design and troubleshooting. I used this one a lot previously in one of my previous organizations where network documentation sorely needed to be built, and it was wonderful to have a quick reference point. It has inbuilt document export options, so any article you can create, inbuilt export for PDF, HTML, Markdown, or text, whichever one of those flavors you prefer. So then you can view your information on the go wherever you are, which is very handy if you have staff that are outside of an intranet and posted it on an intranet, or if you're knowingly going somewhere where you need this information, but you don't have network connectivity. This was very nice when I was in Nunavut, because it turns out there's not a lot of internet in Nunavut. Who would have thought? There's guest document availability. This is fantastic for two things. It's great for quick deployments, where if you only want a few users to actually have to log into the site for administrative credentials, or any kind of credentials, and you can make a sect of articles just available for guest access. This is how we currently have ours implemented. Our IMS and IT team has access to the actual Bookstack, and the rest is just general articles for staff use for troubleshooting. This can also be very useful if you were an MSP. I know we're all education in this room, but we have peers, where you can set articles as general access to be, hey, this is what we can do for you, this is how we can help you, to just show that to your clients or prospective clients. It has expedient article revisioning. Sorry, I need to double check my notes so I don't lose myself. Revisioning and recovery, where versions can be previewed very swiftly prior to restoring them. So that way you don't end up in an endless cycle of restoring a version that you don't want, but then restore a different version that you don't want until you happen upon the right version. Restorations of deleted articles, books, and shelves is similarly swift from the inbuilt recycle bin. It has quick and simple customization within the platform. You can adjust the banners, the links, the colors of the headers and footers, and put in footer links very readily and quickly. The default landing page for all users can be changed. In our board, we set it to a specific, to the client services shelf, so that way whoever runs into the site, whenever you run into the site, the first thing that loads is the books that will help you with troubleshooting. So that way it lowers the amount of navigation that our users have to perform. There's article tagging within Bookstack, so you can put alternate names. Well, you might want to name an article how to restart the Windows print spooler. An end user probably isn't going to search for it that way. So you can tag the article, printer no work, and that will resolve the article for them so they can find it, so they might be able to resolve that solution. It has webhook integrations, so you can get Teams to yell at you, or whatever chat system you have to yell at you based on actions that occur within Bookstack. What causes the webhook to prompt can be adjusted within Bookstack very, very granularly, so you don't need to get a ping whenever somebody adds the word the to an article that was missing the word the. You can opt out of that. Audit trails are inbuilt, and it starts running immediately. You don't have to enable it. It logs every kind of change that occurs within Bookstack. It does not log page views or anything like that because it just doesn't log read actions. It logs any kind of write or any kind of logins or login attempts, failures, what have you. User favorites are an option for users that can log in. You can favorite articles, books, or shelves. So you can go to your favorites tab, and that way you can curtail it specifically to you, which is handy as it grows in scope. It's customizable through community-driven modifications. They call these hacks because they want to be cute. They are simple drag-and-drop HTML modifications. One that I put in all my instances is it just forces every link to open in a new tab, so you don't lose whatever article you are currently on. Also helps for if you're linking externally. That way it just pops in a new tab. It doesn't take the user away from the knowledge base. It has an available API, the REST API, so that way you can leverage it for bulk tasks. Some folks use it for mass importing of articles. If you have a pre-existing knowledge base solution, or you have a Teams chat or SharePoint or something where you have a lot of articles already existing and you want to bring them in by not copying and pasting all of them, you can leverage this API to bring it in for you, as well as for automating backups, automating exports, that kind of thing. And the two ways that it'll get you to smooth over and implement it in your own organization is it has minuscule hardware requirements. Our current implementation, our board has about close to 1,000 employees. Our knowledge base runs on 1 CPU core, 2 gigs of RAM, and takes 10 gigs of storage. And I have a lot of snapshots in the articles I've made, and we don't have any issues. It does not use many resources, and it is free and open source. You can just go to Bookstack's site, and you can download it and try it out. So for your implementations, again, as previously mentioned, there are sites that have pre-made Bookstacks, so you can pay them and just get in. So the two that I found were LSDO and KNT Host. They're about $15 a month. Try it out through that. If you wanted a web-based, always online cloud access solution. If you wanted to do it yourself, it officially runs on Ubuntu 24.22.20 and Docker. In theory, if you're patient, you could get it running on anything with Apache 2 and SQL. I wouldn't recommend that, but you can do it. And again, the hardware requirements are minimal. You just need 1 CPU. We throw in 2 gigs of RAM. I've only ever seen it peak at about 200 megabytes, but it has the RAM should it need it, and 100 gigs of storage for expansion, but tailor that as you see fit. And then the last bit of considerations, once you have it running, is migration of your existing documentation. Which, as mentioned, you can leverage the API, you can cut and paste. There is a hack for dragging and dropping docs files directly into the editor. If you're going to utilize single sign-on, that depends on the scope of your organization and how you intend to implement this. If you're going to have it with just a handful of people on your IT staff accessing it, you want to gear it towards some end users. Leveraging guest access is a wonderful way to do it. Information segregation, how you're going to split things up, your users, your groups, how you're going to identify and segment that information. And then a minor thing with Bookstack is image security. A default of the platform is that images are just publicly available. So if you had the full URL for an image, irrespective of if you're logged into the Bookstack or not as an administrator, you can view the image from whatever article. Admittedly difficult to do because you have to know the image path of how everything's being stored and what the image is called, but you could. A default is that it puts on image security where it just puts a random vomit string of characters in front of the image to make that hard to guess, but you can change settings to lock that down so that it doesn't happen. There's just a minor performance impact. So that's it for the slides. I do have a demo, so we're going to get into that, and I can show you a bit more of a running Bookstack. So we're going to start off with our, oh, the slide's still running. Hold on, I forgot to end it. There we go. Wonderful. We have our lovely, awful lime green, and we will change that. So this is currently a lockdown Bookstack. When you hit it, if there's no public access, it just brings you straight to the login page because there's nothing else to do. Log in or go away. I just have things left as the default currently, so it's going to yell at me. And I'm just going down to my demo notes so I don't get lost as I go through and forget some tasks. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to change that banner because it's horrible and allows me to show you just the basic customization settings. So we just go settings, we hit the customization button, and we can see here some defaults. There's the application name. By default, it's Bookstack. I currently have this enabled. If we wanted to show it in header, we can do that. We can also change it to whatever we want. So change it to demo. We'll leave that tag to show in header. When we're done, it'll adjust. And down here we have our color options. You can change this independently between light and dark mode because it does have a quick toggle light and dark mode. It remembers based on your user preferences of what mode it's going to reside in. We're just going to change the banner to something not horrifically ugly. I'm changing it to purple because it's my demo and I like purple. And we can see that that's updated. We see we have demo at the top. And you can see here previously I've put in application logos of ECNO just to keep it relevant to the theme. You can put whatever banner image you want in here. It'll just downsize it. Ideally, match what it tells you because then it'll fit better, but it'll just squish it. So I'm going to start off next just by creating some documents, creating some shelves, creating some books just to show you what that path looks like. So we're just going to hit the shelves button, which is the highest level of hierarchical organization within the platform. And because we don't have shelves, our only option is to create a new shelf. So this one's just going to be our client services shelf. It's going to be our end user. And we're just going to save it. And once we created it, it brings us right into that shelf directly. We don't have to do any more, we don't have to navigate into it. So we're going to create a new book. And we can also assign shelves to books from this menu. I do have a book existing in here already, a best practices one. We'll circle to it. But for now, we're going to create a new one. It's a Mac user guide. So in here, we have the option to create a chapter or create a new page. New pages are our level of content. Chapters are our last level of hierarchical organization, which allows you to collapse several related pages together just for simpler viewing and a little bit of cleanup. But in this instance, we're just going to create some pages. So very simple, very direct, new header. And I'm just going to show some basic creating the tables. We have our quick table square, drop it in. We want this to be our top level. So we can header it. Very quick customization. We can do more advanced in here with table properties to build it out a bit more. And these allow us to quickly add more rows, more columns. In here is where we can view previously uploaded images and also upload additional images. So if we select this, we can see from some documentation I've put in previously, the images exist within the knowledge base. And this is a nice performance and space saving measure, because if you have an image in there, it just exists once. You can reference that image across the entire knowledge base in multiple different places, but that image fundamentally only actually exists once, which saves on performance. So we just want to put in this welcome to Drive image. Why not? And we can see we can quickly size it however we'd like. And we can just pull it around to adjust its orientation if we want to. We can also block out text and callouts, which can be used to flag information as dangerous or vitally important, or just a simple notification, which is nice to catch users as they're going through articles, or yourself later if there's an important step that you don't want to miss, but you know you'll probably miss if it's not called out to you. And to highlight ease of import in the very rough way, I'm going to clear this information out, and I'm going to go to some pre-existing documentation I have. This is some of our end user information. So this is a guide I made for helping users export from photos on Mac, because Mac likes to lock the photos into an app so that you can't get them otherwise. And we're just going to simply cut and paste that. And we have the whole article immediately done, preserving the formatting just as it was. It will do the same thing from a Word document. This is just an HTML export. And we can save that there. And if we go into the book, we see the document here. Quick browse, and we can see on the side we have actions because we're administrator. So if I go in here and if I add some extra text and I save that and I go, I don't want the garbage text, but I also don't want to edit this for some reason, I can go into our revisions. I can see the previous versions here. I can preview the latest version we have without the garbage text and say, yep, revision number 1 here looks great. And then we just restore it. We're back to it. So I'm going to bring in a couple more pages just to collapse it into a chapter to show you very quickly. I'm going to take our Safari exports. And we're also going to add a tag here of Safari help. Or I'll add browser help. So we can showcase the tagging result of it. So we can see here we have our multiple pages. We'll add a chapter of just Mac users. So currently the chapter won't have anything in it. We have to add the content to the chapter. So we can select the sort book option down here, and then we can just drag and drop them in. And then we can flip these however we want. If you want to sort them alphabetically, if you want to sort them by relevance, however feels right, you can do that. You can save your new order. And then the chapter, you can navigate to it by clicking it, or you can click this drop down and it builds them right out into the entire book view. So next I'm just going to create one other shelf, and then we're going to lock that down as more classified information. So we're going to go back to our shelves. We're going to hit new shelf on the right now. Because we have a shelf now, it's navigable. That nice create a new shelf is gone. So this one we're just going to name it infrastructure. It's going to be very important information, I assure you. And then we're going to create a network book. And this is just going to be our topologies page. So we're going to create and I can remember where the button is. There it is. I'm going to create a quick little topology. And this is hosted on my device. This isn't going out into the internet to run draw.io. It's just inbuilt. So we have more shapes. We're going to get our Cisco shapes because you need them, you love them. And the way that I'm pretty sure networks function is it's just computer right to the internet. So that's going to be our topology here. I don't think there's more to it than that. I'm pretty sure it's just computer to internet. And we're going to save that. We're going to save the page. And we can see here that it renders it directly in Bookstack, so you don't have to go separately to draw.io. You have this, and again, with any other document, you can export this directly to a PDF. So you're going to a client site or something, you're going to a school where the internet's flaky and you need to troubleshoot it, and this is internet hosted, you know you won't be able to access it. Print this out beforehand. It'll aid you in resolving that issue. So we have two different pieces of information. We want to start opening this up. We got to lock down our information. That's the next step that we got to do. So we're going to go to our infrastructure shelf, and we're going to go into permissions. In Bookstack, things are open first. So when you create a new shelf, when you create a new book, when you create a new, not just shelves and books because everything's dependent on the book permissions. New shelves and new books, everything's open first. By default, everybody can see it. So before you actually put in information, if you have things open to people, once you've created the shelf, once you create the book, go into permissions, turn off inherit defaults for everybody, and hit save. This locks down the shelf, but has not locked down the book. We can go back into shelf permissions, and then we can select copy permissions to books. Every book that is on that shelf will have the same identical permissions pushed down. Likely, it's going to flow identically. If you notice that it's not, that you have a separation, you need to break up a book. But we're going to copy that down. If we go into network and we go into its permissions, we now see that it's not accessible by everybody. Great. Our network stuff's separate from what our users can see. Wonderful. We're going to let our users in now. So we're going to go into here. We're going to go into settings and customization, and then I'm going to get lost briefly. My mistake. So just reverse. Now, I misled myself in my own notes. So we've enabled public access. So we're just going to go over to our Firefox browser here, where previously it was on a logged-in page because it was separate. We're going to refresh that. And we can see now we have a shelves and books option. And if we click our home page in the top left, this shows us what was recently updated. And it also only shows us the passwords and bookmarks and export from the Photos app, because that's all we can see. If we click on books, we only have the Mac user guide. And if we hit on shelves, we only have client services. Conversely, if we go into our administrative login and we click on shelves, we can see infrastructure and client services. If we click on books, we can see the Mac user guide, we can see network, and we can see this best practices document, which maybe we want to look at that. Because briefly, I do want to go over the best practices we've implemented for end user guidelines and how that differs from staff. So these are specifically for end user because we want that to be much more structured and much more rigid. So when we design end user documentation, every single step, no matter how basic it seems, must have an accompanying screen cap with necessary interactive elements neatly outlined using a square or circle tool. Don't freehand it, don't rough it. It's tempting to save on time, but the more clean your documentation is, the easier it is for people to adhere to. For creating these documents on Windows, we use Greenshot. On Mac, we use Shotter. Both are very excellent free photo screenshot utilities with some light photo manipulation elements kicked in. If your screenshot includes multiple smaller steps, such as navigating through Finder, File Explorer, or web browser, have numbered steps on those actions so that users don't get lost. You must ensure that correct spelling and sentence structure are adhered to, and tag documents appropriately for their use for end users to catch things that they might look for that you might, such as Outlook not working in an Outlook troubleshooting document. Software documentation that differs in the placement and structure should have different screenshots if it flows differently on different operating systems. So we have both Windows and Mac in our environment, so our documents flow differently between the two. Avoid the use of jargon and technical language. Utilize layman words. If you're referring to an access keycard as an NFC or RFID token, that's correct, but no one's really going to know what you're talking about. So refer to it as that access badge or keycard. We avoid writing directly to the user with you, unless we need to specify their password, just to keep it more impersonal. It's easier to follow technical documentation when it's not consistently involving the user. It feels less demanding. If you're uploading screenshot information that would have staff or student or any kind of identifying information, censor that out with a block tool. Don't use a blur tool. Don't use anything that can be reversed. Just block it out. This is a knowledge base. It's supposed to have walkthroughs. It shouldn't have anything that can reveal anybody. The only exemption to that in our own is my information's present. I'm the IT guy. I'm okay with that one. And our last bit here is I just want to go over the audit log to show you all of the things that it's been logging while we've created our documents, while we've gone through everything else. So we can see here our page restore, our page creates as we've gone through today. And we can see all of the activity as I've mucked around with this while I've made it up prior to the implementation here, which goes all the way back to March. We can see that it's kept comprehensive access, comprehensive logs of when I've been able to log into the stack, whenever shelf settings have changed, anything in there. For event filters, we can filter on pages, chapters, books, when things are moved around, when things are restored, when things are deleted. I'm going to hop briefly back to our general user here, and I'm just going to hop into a page to highlight the differences, because we can see we don't have any of the manipulation options here on the side. This is a read-only user. So they can view everything, but they can't hurt it. We also don't have any settings, so they can't adjust any administrative parts of Bookstack. And I believe that about wraps up the demo tasks I got. So we have a bit of time for Q&A before we have to run off for the next one. Does anyone have anything for me? Yeah.
I saw a user give a gift for asking a question. The first thing in my head, how is it importing documents from?
Yeah, so it does have an API that you can leverage for import. It does have an API, it uses the REST API. So you do have to navigate through that interface for bulk actions like that, but I haven't seen anyone run into big issues with migrating from one to the other. And depending on the knowledge base you're leaving, or if you're going to a hosted one, they have services to help you with that transition. Unfortunately, the instances I've been in have been scant on the existing knowledge to transfer, so that was less of a concern. No worries. Yeah.
It's a little late, Ryan, so I apologize.
That's okay.
But it's really a template that by the all of you are basically sort of your end user has a general template that they can see. So log in, have specific information, you start with
Yes, you can do that. So the way we have ours set up, and I can go through this in the settings here, I'm just going to hop back to our admin user. We can adjust the default landing page to be whatever we want. This does affect everybody on the Bookstack, but it's so you want to set it to the broadest applicable. So you can set it to be a book, a specific page, or a specific shelf. So application homepage here. So it's set to default, which is this one here, which is recently updated, recently viewed, what have you. This is more of an administrative panel than a user one. So what we can do is we'll have it mirror what we have. So we have application homepage of books. So then We will save this setting. We'll go here. So whenever the site is loaded for the first time, so I'll kill this. It brings us right to the books. So they see the Mac user page. If you wanted to set a page up for the first little bit, if you're adopting the solution of here's how you use Bookstack, you can do that as well. So we'll go back in and we can say, we're going to scroll past it again. Specific page, select a page. We will pretend that exporting photos is vital information that everybody in our org needs to know right now. And we will click our top left, which is our return to home button, and it brings us right to export from photos.
Basically, you use that in regards to like, let's say analyzing your qualified patterns, a higher percentage of X wires, and you push the book to the top so that people see the ones that lock.
Yes, and you can also sort anything in whichever manner you want. So you can sort them alphabetically, or you can sort them in order of importance. So if I go back in here, I'm just going to create some demo books. So if I go into client services and I create a printer's book and I create a network access book.
So I guess my original question, this is great information, I really like it, but when you're creating the actual book, is there a template that would go inside of the books that would have the same, by blood, the company logo at the top? So I've worked in the past with like HP and that sort of thing. Each company I've worked for has had their own specific detail.
Like branding within it.
And HP, some of the great things that they did on their side was like created on date, review date. So you could set a review date on a particular article so that by next date, the owner of the article had to review for it to remain in the actual system. Otherwise, if it's decommissioned, they'll swing those through the reviews and make sure that it's still.
Oh, okay. I see. I don't believe Bookstack has that functionality, but that may be an absence of my own looking into it, because we've handled it on an internal review cycle of every summer we go in, we review the articles to see what's relevant. So we haven't had to have that administrative policy to automate it. As far as I know, it does not have that cutoff of yanking an article for manual review.
And will it leverage other sites like Google, for example? So a lot of friends use Google. Like there's a lot of self-help for Google. Is there a tie-in for Google Books? Like, for example, is there like already an archive perhaps that you wouldn't have to self-maintain? It's available through providers and support this particular platform.
So you're thinking of importing an archive directly to Bookstack that already exists?
Yeah, so I don't know what support from other companies, third-party companies. So let's say, for example, you adopt paper right, as a printing solution. Are there books available perhaps from paper that you can incorporate in or something that your team doesn't have to create the knowledge articles or the end users?
Yeah. Not insofar as I've heard, because it is a more niche product, but through leveraging the API or through leveraging the aforementioned hacks of drag and drop, you can take the existing documentation they provide you and readily import it, because they're going to provide it generally in a standard PDF format. So if you set up the API to, this is how we import PDFs, you get your knowledge from Xerox for paper cut, pop it right in. So you could set up a scalable way of bulk bringing in that external documentation for sure. Yeah.
When you're making like a new page or whatever, doing is there anything built in there that adds accessibility checks on there to make sure there's alt text on images, things like that, or is that not something that's in this? And if there's not something that's in there for that on its own, if you would import a PDF that does have all that baked into it, will that transition?
I think it would fall short on the accessibility end because I haven't seen it within it, and it saves it within its own formats. When you import a PDF, the rest, if you're doing it with REST or manually, you're copying and pasting the text in the photo image, and then it converts it into what you see is what you get. There may be a hack that exists that has some more accessibility information, or a way to modify it, because I know there's a lot of ways you can adjust this.
Thank you.
No worries.